COVID shut down the world 6 years ago this week. What do you remember from that week?
I was sure everything would be normal again in May. LMAO. In our group chat, someone asked when it would be over, and the farthest out someone said was October, and he got roasted. We all thought it was ridiculous. We also were guessing who in the group would get COVID, and that same guy was like, every single one of us is going to get it eventually, and we laughed at him again. I was so confident things would be okay, we started planning our wedding, LOL. Got married in September 2020, things were not normal, but everyone wore masks, and it was a great excuse to trim the guest list. We didn't invite anyone we thought would make a fuss about wearing a mask and skipped a reception, which saved a lot of money. No one caught COVID from our wedding, so I see that as a win, all things considered. My sister is a doctor. In April or May, she said this kind of thing would stick around for a few years and surge a couple of times as new strains developed. I hoped she was wrong, but
It was the best time of my adult life to this very day.
I remember at some point saying to my husband something along the lines of, "This has been so much fun, I guess we married the right person." Obviously, we were privileged to live in a single-family home, work from home, and not have to worry about anything else for a while. Same. I was no longer a loner, but instead someone behaving in a socially acceptable manner. I remember thinking, I just paid $150 for Orange Theory. This sucks.
Hell on earth. Business owner here. It's like you spend decades to build a sustainable model. Poof! I never recovered fully, mentally. I still had to work. Everyone I knew went to working remotely. I was pissed off at the world. Felt I was given the raw end of the deal. I'm still mad to this day. One friend was bringing home almost $1,000 a week in unemployment. She moved and bought a new house. For years she lived that way. Empty shelves of toilet paper, and the feeling that this was all some kind of movie. Yes, I have a picture in the toilet paper aisle at Target, and it was completely empty. Never seen anything like that, and we knew it was going to be bad. I never understood hoarding toilet paper. My wife and I had gone to BJ's and bought a big pack of toilet paper right before lockdown, just out of normal toilet paper purchasing habit. We got off lucky because it lasted us until right around when buying toilet paper wasn't a terrible. I was essential, so not much changed for me. Funny how essential workers were paid the least. Right? I was working in grocery at the time, and we were given an extra $2 an hour, only for them to take it away from us. It was that and other factors that led me to finally leave grocery in 2021 after 13 years. Was on my 4th day of a new job, and they said pack up and go home, with no training or anything. Trained myself. I still had to go to work, and I had the interstate to myself. One of the few good things was how quiet it was, and the earth seemed to actually be healing because there was no pollution. I remember management at a hospital I used to work at never took it seriously, and no one received recognition for their hard work. The CEO got a bonus, of course. I made overnight deliveries in SoCal. It was surreal driving for an hour and only seeing a couple of semis and maybe one other car. Eventually, after a couple of months, it got pretty common to see coyotes walking leisurely along the freeways. People literally calling for other people to die or have their lives ruined, and then trying to pull a no hard feelings LOL after it was all over. It was disturbing to see an awful lot of support for eugenics and viewing the elderly and disabled as expendable burdens, thinning the herd as if it's culling chickens, not human beings. I, in the US, lost a lot of faith in humanity after the 2016 election. Then I lost a whole lot more with the pandemic. I lost what little was left after the 2024 election. Soul-crushing despair, all within 10 years. It was truly awful. I got diagnosed with cancer in October of 2019. It was caught early, but I still needed to see an oncologist just to be sure. There was a mask shortage at the time, and I remember the fear I saw in the eyes of people who had it worse than me in the waiting room. Some of them had masks, but a lot of people only had scarves or bandanas. It was upsetting to me to know that some people were totally fine with cancer patients dying. Edit. I should add that this was a follow-up appointment in March 2020 because it took a while to deal with everything. The surgery was booked very quickly, like less than a week after I found out. I worked as a paramedic, so my perspective is different than most.
Well, personally, that weird, quiet couple of days where everyone kept saying, 2 weeks and we'll be back to normal, while simultaneously buying 40 rolls of toilet paper like we were preparing for a siege, the vibe was extremely confusing. Aw man, my cruise is going to be postponed for weeks. How inconvenient. I booked my first cruise on March 4th, 2020. By the time the cruise line finally opened back up, my credit wouldn't even begin to cover a new cruise. Same with a flight credit. I finally got to go on a cheaper cruise line in 2024 and had to drive to the port.
It was literally 6 years ago, Friday, 13th of March, 2020. Edit, in my country, it was the last day before the official lockdown started on Saturday the 14th. That's why I call it the start. I remember being thankful I was able to go to the best convention literally a few days before the shutdown. My partner and I dressed up as Tank and Jet Girl, and we got to meet Lori Petty. She signed my partner's helmet for free, and she sent a picture of us to her mom.
I remember thinking, whoa, if this gets really bad, we could be locked down for a few weeks. In many ways, we've never recovered.
As I left work on the final day, people were thinking it'd be a few weeks, and I said, see you in 6 months, if ever again. I was only half joking, and I never saw a lot of people again in person. Not because they died, just layoffs and people moving jobs, remote work, and so on.
I thought the kids would for sure go back to school. When someone said they didn't think they would go back that year, I actually laughed.
A lot of kids suffered massive developmental setbacks because of isolation, and I do wonder what the crime rate is going to be like in a couple of years. Seeing streets completely empty felt unreal. Every headline was terrifying. Constant hand washing and obsessively sanitizing.
My hands were so dry from all the washing.
Telling families at the nursing home they wouldn't be able to visit. I made my boss tell one man in particular because I couldn't do it. My daughter had died not even 3 months before, and now the rest of the world was grieving something else. I had just returned to work the week before, and then they closed Fitness Field. It was lonely, but my grief was bigger than COVID. Edit. Thank you for the compassion. Dang, I'm sorry you went through that. That's rough. This stranger is sending you hugs. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. It really helps. Subscribe for more, and tap the bell so you don't miss the next one.